Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Backlot 605 podcast. Here we are in week number three of Mel Brooks month. Sam looks out of it for this episode, and I'm excited because we are talking Robin Hood Men in Tights here in the third week of our Mel Brooks month for the month of April. This is episode number 180. I'm one of your hosts. I am Casey Kellerman. Joining with me are my co-hosts. Probably wearing tights. I hope they are. Brian Mensing.
Nope, jeans.
Not wearing tights. Sam.
He's like, show off the
legs.
Show off the sexy legs.
Yeah, not wearing tights.
I'm not wearing nothing.
I'm leaving mine a mystery because I'm not lifting my leg up for this shit.
I am poo bearing it.
In his Halloween sweater, just as John Carpenter would have wished.
Pooh bearing it in a Halloween sweater. Got it.
Your what's the other babysitter's name in Halloween? Not Jamie Lee Curtis.
Annie. I'm
Annie.
Annie.
You're Annieing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Exactly.
I'm over here. You're like, who the other one? Not Jamie Lee Curtis. I was like, probably the dead one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and the reason I always check my back seat before I get in any car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't mess with that shit.
You make me want to go revisit the Halloween movies. Oh wait, I haven't even watched all of them before.
You're missing
you
out.
At least
I'm
watch
telling you.
The first one.
You should watch at least the first 7. At least.
I mean, who am I kidding? If you're me, I would say you should at least watch all 12 of them. But
well, I was gonna say,
that's because
which one of you has
the bad and the terrible?
Which one of you has all of them?
I do. I don't know where they're at.
All of them, all including the Rob Zombie ones.
Do you have that Scream Factory set?
Yeah.
See,
okay.
I should have picked that up.
It's here.
Okay.
So I found it at Last Stop, actually. I caught it on Last Stop, and I'm like, well, I got to pick this up. So
after I finish my MCU, after I watch my Marvel stuff and whatnot, I'll tag you because I should hopefully be done by October, that I can just do a Halloween binge for October.
I will say you'll have a better experience with the Halloween binge than you did the Friday the 13th one.
Yeah.
Oh, I already know. I already know that.
And that comes from a Friday the 13th super fan. You'll have a much better time.
The problem with the Friday the 13th movies, especially in a binge, is they kind of start to bleed together a little bit.
It's the same movie you watch 8 times in a row. Halloween at least is each movie.
Halloween at
relatively
least does
different.
Some weird shit pretty early on. So
good.
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear, because
I mean, third movie in, they're like, yeah, forget Michael Myers. We're gonna do this weird cult mask witch Ireland sci-fi whatever movie. That's awesome.
And it works. It's so good.
Yeah. And then Paul Rudd shows up in one of them, and he's not good.
He rules.
But the movie rules.
Yeah.
It's no different than Friday the 13th when Crispin Glover shows up and he's dancing up a storm. I mean,
oh, he's the best part of that movie.
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely the best part of that movie.
100%. Speaking of the best part of any movie, Cary Elwes, he is the star of Robin Hood Men in Tights. I love Cary Elwes, man.
Yeah. Oh, he's great, man.
There really isn't anything that he's ever done where I was like, this is just bad. I mean, I think he does
New Black Christmas.
He's so good in that.
I'm kidding. I like that. I like that movie.
It's actually really fun.
Because I mean, even the way when he bookended the Saw movies for what they were and whatnot, I enjoyed him in that. I mean, I've enjoyed him since way back in the day, since when I was a kid. For The Princess Bride, for Men in Tights, for Hot Shots,
Liar Liar.
Yes, Liar Liar. I mean, even just like the rom-coms and stuff like that.
Wasn't he like Stranger Things for a season 2?
Yes.
Yeah. He was like the sleazy mayor or something.
Yes, he was.
I was telling this to Maria. I've never seen someone go from like playing like the cheeky, confident hero like he does in like The Princess Bride, Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like he does that swashbuckling hero thing so well, and then in the later half of his career, he's now just playing like smarmy bad guys all the time. And I'm like, there's just been a complete 180 in the roles that he's been typecast in, and it's kind of hilarious, actually.
I was going to say that's the first thing I thought of when rewatching Robin Hood Men in Tights is I miss this Cary Elwes because he's so good at it. He's ridiculously good.
he
Like
is.
he's my favorite part of Princess Bride. He's my favorite part of this movie. He's so good at playing, like you said, this kind of swashbuckling, out of his element hero. Where I'm like, that's kind of every hero that we get nowadays in a mainstream movie. Like you look at Thor or any of the Guardians of the Galaxies. That's what Cary Elwes is playing in Princess Bride and Robin Hood Men in Tights.
You can definitely see the influences.
Yeah, I'd go as far as to say there's like no Captain Jack Sparrow without Cary Elwes in the late 80s, early 90s. I really believe that, because that is, if Pirates had been 10 years earlier, that would have been Cary Elwes in that role. Like undoubtedly.
He probably could have done it when Johnny Depp did it. They're probably not that far off in age either.
Actually, I don't think they are that far off from each other, so probably.
That was so for going last week from History of the World Part 1 to now Robin Hood Men in Tights. Obviously, we skipped a few Mel Brooks movies there in the middle, maybe his big run, but that's okay. We gushed about Spaceballs, and we'll gush about Young Frankenstein throughout this entire series, and we will continue to do so. But Robin Hood Men in Tights, I think, rectifies the biggest problem that we had with History of the World. Is that we felt
it's good?
Well, one, it's a good movie. Two, Mel Brooks is not the lead, and he's not the singular part of every segment.
Yeah.
Whereas this time he hires someone else to step into that role. Cary Elwes being dynamite in this movie, and kind of lets him project his own version of Robin Hood and this lead character that. I am so glad we don't have Mel Brooks. I love Mel Brooks, but smaller doses of him as an actor, I think, make him stand out.
And the one thing I do like about the way he interjects himself into this movie is he takes an existing character and flips it a little bit. In Friar Tuck, now we've got Rabbi Tuckerman. To the point where it's like we have a character we know, but he's going. You know what? I'm taking the back seat. We're having a little bit of fun. You guys can focus over here and whatnot, but I'm still going to be in the movie. I'm just not going to have a big role in the respect of it. Yeah. Like I love the fact he took on the Friar Tuck role.
It's a good role for him because it's pretty much like Friar Tuck is not the character you think of when you think of a Robin Hood story. Like he's there, but he's just kind of there. And Mel Brooks, doing what he does best, has two of the funniest scenes in the whole movie. And so I feel like, I don't know. I guess I feel like that like you said, Casey, it's good that he's not in the spotlight because I don't think he would carry the Robin Hood role like Cary Elwes does. But yeah, I also think this whole cast is just kind of in top form. I love Amy Yazbek. I wish she was in more. She's so dynamite in this movie. She's got perfect comedic timing, and her facial expressions are just, I don't know. She works in Mel Brooks movies, and you're gonna love her in Dracula Dead and Loving It. Yeah, next. Oh God, she's great.
But and what I really see, being that we went with the early stuff with Blazing Saddles and History of the World and whatnot, even though it's not able to make the actual recording. Sorry, rock concert took precedence.
Yeah, you won that night.
Yeah.
we love talking to Tad, but that movie's rough.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
it's not that rough. But
it's I'm sorry, as somebody who didn't get a chance to talk about it, it's definitely not high. It's not high bar for Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it's pretty lower tier Brooks.
But what I saw,
I agree with that. But I think low tier Mel Brooks is great. So
what I saw out of Amy Yazbek in this movie is what I feel we got out of Madeline Kahn from previous movies and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is I feel that there definitely feels like that Amy Yazbek even though she's good in her own right, she understands the assignment, understands basically if this movie had been made 10, 20 years earlier, Madeline Kahn would have been that person probably. And she plays it to her strengths, but she plays it like I think how Madeline Kahn would have played that role too.
Yep. Well, and Amy Yazbek is kind of one of those like comedic actresses that comes in and is just kind of like a bright spot in everything. Like she had a guest run on Wings back in the 90s where she was really good. Yeah. And then and she's also in Problem Child, which isn't a good movie, but she's very good in it. I just every time she pops up,
Child.
I haven't watched Problem Child in a while. I remember
Problem Child still holds up.
Problem Child holds
I'll
up.
have to revisit
also,
it.
R.I.P. Gilbert Gottfried, who is great in Problem Child.
John Ritter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and so I don't know. I love Yazbek. I think she's great. I wish that we would have gotten a movie with her and Madeline Kahn in the same cast, because I feel like those two together would just, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they would have done like a mother-daughter kind of relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Or like, it would be so funny to do something like a cop comedy like Heat with the two of them, like The Heat with Sandy Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, but like in the 80s with Amy Yazbek and Madeline Kahn. I just think that would be great. Do like a
Mel Brooks Lethal Weapon with the two ladies as the leads.
Yeah, exactly.
Mel Brooks can play the chief that's going to be yelling at them, and he'll just yell at him in Yiddish.
So retroactively, we're going to go back and make I don't know what we call it. Can't call it Loaded Weapon.
No, because that's fantastic. That is a fantastically bad spoof. They don't make spoofs like that anymore either.
No.
What, good ones?
Yeah, exactly.
This one does, and again, we're going to praise the spoof aspects of this movie because it does a great job of that. You guys are going to have to fill me in on this because I have never actually seen Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So I don't know. I can obviously understand. Yeah, I've never seen it.
But here's the one thing I will say to the sake of Prince of Thieves and whatnot is, for the most part, I don't think you have to have seen Kevin Costner Prince of Thieves and anything like that. You just have to have the general basis and understanding of the Robin Hood story. I think Mel Brooks is doing a good job of spoofing the story, not necessarily pulling specifically from Prince of Thieves. I think it's more or less just spoofing the Robin Hood movies in general. Even to the old swashbuckling early ones of I can't even think of his name, like pre-Kevin Costner.
Yeah, the Errol Flynn ones. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
Robin Hood's a pretty universal story. We're still seeing multiple modern adaptations of this movie, including Russell Crowe, Taron Egerton. We're still doing Robin Hood
nowadays. Sue me, I like the Taron Egerton one. It's a direct ripoff of Batman Begins, but it works.
That is one of those ones that's been in my digital library since it came out, and I've still yet to watch it, so I'll have to put that one on the checklist here soon.
It's not good, but I have so much fun with it. Like, it's a weird mismatch of a lot of different things, but
it's one of those ones
fun.
where
it's a lot of fun.
What not to get off completely topic for the sake of Robin Hood and whatnot, but I remember one of the first things that I saw when people were griping about that movie was they're like, those clearly look like those were sewn by a sewing machine, and those outfits are way too clean. And I'm like, really? That's what you're going to like? Just
There's
enjoy
a peasant basically
movie.
wearing a modern day hoodie halfway through the movie. It's like if Baz Luhrmann directed Robin Hood. That's what it is. It's like full of Jay-Z and like, well, not really, but you know, it's just like, it's very much
it's Jamie Foxx.
Like,
it's full of Jamie Foxx songs.
Yeah.
No, but now I all of a sudden want to watch Baz Luhrmann do Robin Hood, though.
Well, just watch. Trust me, it's close enough.
Bring on Elvis. Anyway, sorry.
I think to that point, this is a really good send up of like just the Robin Hood story in general. But you also can't not acknowledge that this is almost very clearly a direct response to Prince of Thieves.
This comes out
you have the
2
witch,
years after Prince of Thieves comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean the witch, the whatever her name is, Laboratory or something, used to be Shithouse.
Latrine.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Latrine. I mean, she's very clearly a spoof on the witch, Prince of Thieves, which really wasn't a Robin Hood thing to my knowledge up until that point, was it? In the Errol Flynn movies? I don't know. I guess I haven't seen any of the Errol Flynn movies, but every other one, I've never seen a witch. So I don't know.
Also, the Sheriff of Rottingham is a direct parody of Alan Rickman.
Oh,
he looks exactly like him, dressed exactly like him. Yeah.
Has the same, like, in the Prince of Thieves, spoiler alert, it's a mother-son relationship type of thing, and they, like, Mel Brooks turns it funny and makes the witch hot for the Sheriff of Nottingham, which, knowing him, he did that on purpose to make it feel extra icky.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I just thought that was funny. This isn't a direct, like, spoof of Prince of Thieves, but it's enough. It makes enough pot shots at it to where it's at least a response to it that also pulls from the stuff that's earlier. I don't think Mel Brooks would have made this movie had Prince of Thieves not come out. That type of thing. I feel like he saw Prince of Thieves in the theater. Like, I love that movie, but it's ridiculous, and thought, like, wow, this almost parodies itself, and went home and wrote a script.
Oh, yeah. And that was a massive movie when that came out. I mean, there's video games and toy lines for Prince of Thieves, and
music videos.
Yeah, you can see why Mel Brooks was like, this is my next project. But also, like, I obviously haven't watched Dracula Dead and loving it yet. We'll get to that next week. But this one feels like a direct response to his entire career, Men in Tights does. Because there is a ton of callbacks to multiple Mel Brooks movies, especially the two we have covered already this month, just by happenstance, including some characters we've already seen, some direct references to, like, Blazing Saddles. I mean, the movie ends with them having Dave Chappelle, like, nominated as the town sheriff, and he's like, "Well, this worked in Blazing Saddles."
Yeah, I love that for the sake of that, to basically being self-referential, to like, well, of course. And that's one thing I liked about this, in, like, when we visited Blazing Saddles and whatnot, is you can clearly tell that for the sake of what jokes Dave Chappelle is delivering in this movie, you can tell that he's helped influencing the writing of his specific character. Because, just like Richard Pryor, writing for Blazing Saddles, I think it's one of those things where Mel Brooks understands to take influence and take the approach of the people that are in his movies as well. Because some of those, like, jokes and stuff like that, it would have been straight up Mel Brooks writing it. I don't know if they would have worked as well if it weren't for the fact that we've got somebody like Dave Chappelle writing his jokes.
Mm-hmm.
And Dave Chappelle is such a ball of energy in this movie too. I mean, I think the movie's great even aside from Chappelle, but, like, he adds this just vibrant energy to, like, every scene that he's in. And I don't know what I'm trying to think of other, like, standout
pop group that narrate or that, like, bookends the movie. That is the funniest thing.
They should have used that more.
Part of the movie. Yeah, they should have, because every time they do I said, hey, nani, and a ho, ho, ho. I'm just like, oh my God, that's hilarious. Like, it works. I want that on a soundtrack. I want, like, I could have done with 10 more of those little segments in between.
And that's what I was going to say. That I which I completely agree, to the point where I think what would have been fun is if that would have been, like, instead of certain things to transition from a scene to scene, that gets interjected to bridge us into the next scene.
Yeah,
they give us that gives us a little bit of hey, this is what's going on. They basically would tell us instead of showing us and whatnot. But I think it would be fun to add that at least a couple more times in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exposition, that's the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. No, when exposition's that entertaining, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like.
Yep.
It would be like a fun bridge between the two, like you said. Like instead,
Yeah.
they only show up twice, right?
Yeah, basically
Yeah, it's
beginning
just
and
at the
end.
beginning and end.
And then the end.
Which I know it's like it's a framing device, and that's fine, but it could have been so much. It just could have been used much more, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And not lost the effect one bit, because you kind of forget about it, and then it hits at the end again. And you're like, oh god, it's those guys again. You're like, wait, why weren't they in this more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do wish they were in more. But like when their scenes come up, I don't know if you guys have the same. Like this is one of the smallest / biggest issues I have with this movie, is that the way it's shot feels very, I don't know, low budget and not able to hide the flaws of shooting a period piece in 1993, if that makes sense. Because especially like those, I don't know, it feels like we're going too wide of the shot, that we're seeing too much of like empty space in the back, where it's like, oh yeah, you guys are just shooting in an open field. And then I think the first half of the movie really has a lot of that, and that, I think the first time I watched it really stood out to me of, oh, this feels really low budget, or they're not like utilizing the tools they have with a lower budget, trying to shoot an epic on a comedy budget. I don't know. Do you guys feel that way? Because I feel that very early on in the movie.
It's very clearly he doesn't have the money behind him that he does in something like Blazing Saddles. Maybe by this point, like his comedies just weren't like, because I don't think Spaceballs was like a massive hit right out of the gate. I mean, if you look at like Rotten Tomatoes score, like Mel Brooks was not the hot commodity at this point. I think this probably got a much lower budget, because it's evident, like it doesn't feel as cinematic as some of his earlier stuff. But that said, there's some charm to that as well. Like sometimes they make that, like my favorite gag is the one where they haul away the castle, because they
looks good too,
right? Yeah, and they just like, they literally just probably put up a very like a prop backdrop on wheels and just had it carted away with the track just hidden underneath the. But it works. It's so funny. And then they don't have to worry about having an expensive castle set to have the conversation between Robin and Blinken, who is like maybe my favorite character in this. I love Blinken, from his introduction where the castle gets pulled away and he's sitting on the john, like feeling a braille like center
Playboy.
And I'm just like, oh god, that's hilarious. And he hears him and, oh, I'll be right out. And you see everything with him like just pulling his pants up, and the statue gag, he grew a nice pair of boobs, like, oh my god.
He does a good job of like faking the blind.
He's great.
I mean, you can clearly tell with certain ways that he does things and whatnot that he's clearly a seeing actor that's playing blind and whatnot. But the way he does it, I think he does a very good job of it. Just for the sake of argument, since you brought up like Spaceballs and whatnot, this had a budget of $20 million, which I think for 93, for the extent of the cast that we have and for what he was doing, I would say that's okay budget, probably lower budget, but it is
probably
it is
mostly
actually,
went to the actors, actually.
right. But it does say Spaceballs had a $22.5 million budget. So, for a movie that was a few years earlier, it actually had a slightly bigger budget.
Yeah. And it had less like major stars too. The only one that was huge was like John Candy, and Rick Moranis.
Yeah.
But like, Bill Pullman wasn't a big name at the time. I can't remember the actress's name who played Vespa. I guess you had Joan, but she wasn't
Rivers
like,
I would say she's probably the biggest star of that movie during that time.
Really?
For the sake of that time, I think, not to get off tangent for Spaceballs, is the fact that I think for the time that movie was made, Joan Rivers and John Candy definitely had bigger names than like Bill Pullman did for that respect. And Rick Moranis, I would think, would probably be on the same par of like John Candy and Joan Rivers for the sake of the comedy and whatnot. So I think you're right. I
Mhm.
mean, I think a lot of it is probably actor salaries, but I mean, if you look at Robin Hood versus Spaceballs, and with only excuse me, what a 5-year difference, but only Spaceballs is only a couple $1,000,000 more. Granted, it's 5 years earlier. It definitely feels like
So
Spaceballs
it
had a
goes a
little
little
bit.
bit longer way.
It goes a little bit longer for the sake of Spaceballs, but at the same time too, Spaceballs, though maybe it's because they don't have to do a lot. They're doing a lot of interior shots. There isn't a lot of exterior
Mhm.
of weight. Maybe that is why Spaceballs looks more polished for 5 years
Yeah.
earlier. Money goes a little bit further 5 years before that and whatnot. But at the same time, too, you could probably reuse a lot of those sets internally and whatnot, um, as opposed to
Yeah, just like
everything.
redress them.
Yeah, as opposed to what we had it in. I mean, the only thing you could really redress for the most part in Men in Tights is basically anything that's in the forest. Like, go play
Yeah.
in the trees. But other than that, there really isn't a set piece that really is something that they could probably reuse a whole lot of.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up the cinematographer for the movie. It is Michael O'Shea, who has done a lot of TV work, is where he comes from.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And then he shot Dracula Dead and Loving It a few years later. But before this was like he worked on like Doogie Howser, the Weird Science TV show. Yeah,
Okay.
so I think that for me is part of it. Maybe is that he comes from a
Yeah.
TV background, and it feels like this feels like a
It feels
TV.
kind of like a TV movie.
Whereas the
Yeah.
Spaceballs cinematographer, Nick McLean, was a cinematographer on Goonies.
Oh
That
yeah.
that
That
makes that
helps.
stand out.
You had me at Goonies.
Yeah, Short Circuit. He was cinematographer on Staying Alive and Mac and Me. So look at that. But I mean, say what you will about some of those movies, they look good, and I think that's one of
Yeah.
my. I don't know. This one looks like it feels like a little more TV than
I could
other
see
Mel
that.
Brooks, especially Young Frankenstein
Yeah.
or Spaceballs or Blazing Saddles, and that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. But like the characters still, they're the ones that pull me right back into the movie.
And I don't ever feel like I get taken out of the movie, because for me, for the most part, the backdrop, the set pieces, though it may feel kind of TV movie-ish in compared to other movies that Brooks has done. But okay, so I mean, look at like Blazing Saddles or even History of the World and whatnot. Is it feels like those are also like low budget. They feel more theatrical, set building pieces and whatnot. And I think uh, Robin Hood does too, but it's the characters that keep you drawn in, that you really don't care that the set pieces around them feel a little bit less lower budget, because you're getting the quality out of the actors.
Yeah.
Just to put it in comparison, and I know I did this last week. I'm going to do it again. I don't give a shit. I'm going to compare it to Monty Python, either Holy Grail, Life of Brian, whatever. You look at those movies; those feel like kind of grimy and dirty a little bit. Like they feel like the world that they're set in.
Yeah.
This one doesn't. It
This
feels
one
like
looks like a Renaissance fair.
yeah, it does, and I
Yeah,
think that's
it
the
does.
biggest thing. I mean, they don't have a Terry Gilliam on set to help do the cinematography and have it look the way those movies look. But that being said, like that's I don't know, kind of what I go into expecting with like a period comedy. Still make us feel like we're in that world, but like all the characters are a ton of fun. Isaac Hayes, very small
Isaac Hayes,
role for
but a
Chef,
great.
but Chef
Mhm.
stands out in this movie.
You called him chef. He hasn't
He
been
is.
chef for years.
He's still Chef. As soon as he popped up on screen, I'm like, "Oh, hi, Chef. Hello, children." I'm just waiting for that. He sounds like I love Isaac Hayes, and he's a ton of fun in this movie. Could have used more of him. Would have been nice to see like him and Chappelle go back and
Yeah.
forth a little bit. That would have been a ton of fun.
Oh, that would have been real fun. I agree.
Yeah, and I know earlier you kind of said like it kind of runs the Mel Brooks playbook. It kind of like it recycles a lot of jokes or finds new ways to
Hmm.
tell like old shticks. They have the walk this way thing. They with Marty Feldman and his hump and Young Frankenstein switching sides. They have the mole that goes around the face. Um, And it kind of makes me wonder, since this was the second to last feature that Mel Brooks did, if this was almost gonna. I wonder if at the time it was going to be his final movie, because it kind of feels like a big culmination of everything that he's done. And like, I love Dracula Dead and Loving It. It's not Brooks's best work. It's just silly. It's goofy fun. But it's like, well, he kind of already spoofed this genre with Young Frankenstein, and he did it better. And, like, so it's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if Dracula Dead and Loving It just kind of came from they threw some money at me and I did it, or if it was just something that maybe he had the bug bite him a little bit and he was like, oh, I'm just going to do one more just for fun. Because this does kind of feel like he's not in like a vain way, but it kind of feels like he's celebrating his career at this point. Like this feels like a victory lap for him, where he's like, remember all of these things. Like, I just, it'll be interesting. It would be interesting to know that he just came out with an autobiography a few months ago, and I have it on hold, or I special ordered it through the library. So I can't wait to read that and maybe get some insight into that, because I don't know. There's just something about these last two movies that he did that I've always thought that, even though I love both of them. Yeah.
This one feels like a swan song. Like, this is my final bow. Like, I'm kind of throwing everything into this one last movie. I mean, looking, not to jump too far ahead to next week, but even this one, like, he's not the sole screenwriter on this movie. Same with Dracula Dead and Loving It. So who knows if it was already something written.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks came on and helped rewrite it, beef it up to be a Mel Brooks movie. He also got $30 million to make that movie, so that probably helped. Saying, all right, fine, I guess I'll make it.
And it does look good. Like, that's one thing. Like, it sends up the, not to get too far ahead, like you said, but it sends up, especially like the 1930s and the Hammer Draculas. It sends them up in such a cool, unique way. I love them. It stays true to the aesthetic of those movies, and I really appreciate it for that.
They had to spend all that money to get Leslie Nielsen for that hurrah.
Yeah. I like it, guys. I don't know if you guys will, but I really like it.
of Leslie Nielsen was working on already attached to it, and Mel's like, I haven't worked with him before. Let's do something together. Like, the two big names of parody of all time, when you think of it, it's Mel Brooks and Leslie Nielsen. Like, very different aspects of parody, but that's the names you think of. So, I think we're on to something here.
You say that now, but I imagine, like, what would have Mel Brooks's Leslie Nielsen loaded weapon would have looked like, kind of thing. Like, what would have if he would have taken on those movies, the Naked Gun movies, what would Mel Brooks's version of look like? Because I think I agree. I think that is a match made in heaven. I just think that one of the reasons why, like, maybe Dracula Dead and Loving It doesn't work, and I guess, well, I'll find out here soon when we get to that, is just that, like you said, maybe it's, that was one of those ones that was just kind of the encore, if you will, because of Men in Tights is, I see the point of where it feels like this is a swan song, especially the whole, throwing back to Blazing Saddles from the very beginning at the end of this movie, kind of thing. So it's like, I do wish we would have gotten more movies out of Mel Brooks than we did during his career as an actual director.
I mean, the movie also throws back to, in my opinion, the worst joke of History of the World Part 1 of "It's great to be king." He even throws that line at the end of this movie, where it works better in this one. I will say that. It works
better in this because it's kind of just one moment, and
like, oh, nice callback, and it's only one time you use the damn joke.
And it's Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart's so much fun in this movie.
I always forget that he's in this movie until I watch this movie, and then he shows up, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Patrick Stewart. And I've watched this movie, I can't even tell you how many times. I probably have it memorized, but for some reason, like, they're like, every time like 3 days after I watch it, it's like they wipe my memory of Patrick Stewart in the movie because I'm always surprised when he pops up.
Well, and I think, like, especially for him popping up where he did and whatnot, like, this is like the perfect time for him to pop up too, like that great little cameo, because he's still doing Star Trek, so he's making a huge name for himself for the sake of Picard and whatnot. Then all of a sudden you just like, have a little bit of that crop. It's one of those things where he's like, what? I got a day off. I'm gonna be in a Mel Brooks movie. Like, how would you not say no to that? And to the point where I agree with you, Sam, where like, I before you jumped on, I told this to Casey. I was like, I probably watch this movie at least once every couple years, if not at least once a year, just because it's, for me, it's one of those fun ones. So I've always enjoyed Men in Tights, but I think every single time that part pops up on screen, I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah. It's just one of those. Yeah, I know. I do the same thing with, like, I don't know. I always forget that, like, for instance, Miley Cyrus is in the beginning of Big Fish. Like, every time I watch that movie, I'm like, I see little Miley Cyrus in the opening scene, and I'm like,
is she?
Yeah, she's one of the 3 kids that goes up to the witch's house. She has like 2 lines in the whole movie, and one of them is, "No,
oh my
Edward, don't."
That is right.
Holy cow! I do not
Miley
remember
Cyrus
that.
is in Big Fish, and
It's
every
been
time I watch it, I'm
forever.
like, "Oh my god, it's like tiny Miley Cyrus." This is like
Little
pre-Hannah
Hannah
Montana.
Is this pre Hannah Montana or
I
what?
think it's pre-Hannah Montana because she's like really, they're like little kids in it.
I was gonna say, from what I remember, they're probably 8, 10, 12 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sam dropping some big fish knowledge on this episode.
Yeah, Big Fish, favorite Tim Burton movie. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Big Fish rules.
I just looked up a picture. Holy cow!
I love Big Fish. Oh my god, we should talk about Big Fish sometime.
We can talk about Big Fish all the time, Sam. It's top tier Burton.
It's definitely, I think for people that have a thing for Tim Burton and whatnot, it is one of those ones I think is very underrated, to the point where it's not one that people think of when they think Tim Burton, because it definitely has the Tim Burton tropes, but it's not this whole dark and like gothy like some of his other things are. And everybody,
it's
like,
beautiful movie.
It's a very beautiful movie.
It does it does what Forrest Gump was trying to do, but better. I said it.
Yeah, actually, I agree with that, and I like Forrest Gump much more than you, Casey. But I agree with that statement entirely. It's like an improved version of it 10 years later.
One thing in this movie I think stands out as the best of Mel Brooks, all of his movies though, is I think this has my favorite musical number from Mel Brooks that's written by him. I'll make sure I throw that out, because Young Frankenstein is hands down the best. This one, but like original Mel Brooks songs, Men in Tights is such a great song.
Yeah,
does like this is what the Spanish Inquisition song should have been in the last movie we watched, because that one just had no point. This one's actually funny and fits in with the rest of the movie, and I think is the best Mel Brooks musical number out of his entire filmography.
Yeah.
Oh, I would agree that number is what definitely makes me want to. One of the things I always enjoy about this movie, just because, number one, Dave Chappelle looks awkward that he's trying to sing and dance, but more to the reason why I enjoy this is because watching Blinken punching people when they get to that part of the song and whatnot, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He just likes to knock anybody just in the face.
Oh my god, yeah. Blinken has like the best physical comedy moments in this. I love everything. I love when he's attacking the post in the big like dining room brawl. It's just like he's just going ham on it. It's the funniest thing.
I love when he gets his eyesight back and he's like, I can see again, and just turns right into a tree.
Yeah. And then he can again. Oh god.
And then he can't see again.
The whole,
It's so perfectly set up.
Watchtower. Blinken, what are you doing up there? Guessing? I guess no one's coming. Like, that's the best gag, because It's so funny. I never even think about it until he asks Blinken what he's doing. And then I'm like, oh yeah, he's blind. What's he doing on the watchtower? Like, that joke's even funnier because I'm slow to catch on to that shit. I figure it out with Blinken. Yeah, I love Blinken. He's my favorite character in this, I think. And I've always thought that the guy who plays him looks just like John Lennon, and it really makes me want to see that guy do a John Lennon biopic. Although he's probably a little too old to do so now. But I've always thought that. I like the first time I watched this in the back of a minivan. Yeah, you could pull the Robert De Niro, de-age him a little. Because John Lennon was only 40 when he died, so there's about at least 30 years you got to shave off there.
He's also been retired for almost 20 years, so I don't know if you're going to get him for your
I was about to say,
John
I don't
Lennon
see
movie.
him much anymore.
He wasn't in a whole lot looking at his career.
I'll just slip into his DMs. Hey, you want to do an unauthorized John Lennon biopic with me?
If you're gonna do something that's based on a true story, John Lennon, just watch Chapter 27.
No, you know what? Oh God, no, not fat Jared Leto. No, guy gave himself gout for that shitty movie. Like, ugh. I hate Jared Leto so much. I'm sorry. Ugh.
I just want to see the look on your face.
I blacked out when you said Chapter 27. I can't even believe they made that movie. Like, what? But anyways.
Anyway, Men in Tights.
Yeah, Men in Tights. John Lennon.
The opening credits of this movie are a ton of fun and are a great tone setter for the movie. Yeah.
Yep.
Why are you burning down our village?
Every time Mel Brooks comes to town to shoot a movie.
What do they yell when it says produced and directed by Mel Brooks? They're like, screw you, Mel Brooks, or something like that.
Yeah, it's something like that. It's like, screw you, Mel Brooks, leave us alone, or something. Yeah. Oh God, it's great. This that's the thing. This movie gets a lot of flack for being lower tier, and I get it. Production wise, it's not as big, and it doesn't feel as cinematic. But it shows a writer and director who is very clearly still got chops and something new to do. You know what I mean? There are moments of just genius in this, and that credit sequence is one of them. The hip hop bookends, even some of the ways that they do the new jokes. I think the walk this way bit in this one is hilarious. I think it's just as effective as the Young Frankenstein one, where the sheriff goes, walk this way, and he twirls around dramatically and starts sauntering off. And they all do
it too.
Follow him. Yeah. Literally every single one of them. And it's just the funniest thing. I think it's just, it might be an old joke, but it's recycled well. They do something new with it that made me laugh. It still caught me off guard. So I think that's the thing. It's not bad to revisit past material as long as you're doing something, as long as you're doing
something right with it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because I was gonna say, I mean, and when you have somebody, I mean, comparing apples to hand grenades, but I mean, if you're thinking for the sake of say take Kevin Smith and whatnot, he's got stuff that he's rehashed and whatnot, but he's at least trying to do it in different ways and whatnot, and he's sometimes you do a joke just to do the joke, but sometimes you do the joke because that your fans are it's gonna be fan service at the same time, but sometimes you got to elevate it a little bit and all that stuff and whatnot, and I said, I mean. Kevin Smith is no Mel Brooks. I understand that, even though I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan. But I mean,
I love Kevin Smith, man.
But I mean, any good comedic director who's going to revisit his own jokes is going to have to look at it and go, okay, is this one of those things? Do I just rehash the same joke because that's the joke, Or do I, like you said, do you elevate it and say, okay, like this one here, we're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna throw it up a bit and whatnot, and we're gonna make it more theatrical, and we're just going to turn it to 11.
Yeah. Well, it's like, it's nice to say like, oh, I don't make art for an audience, I make art for me. But at a certain point, like people like Mel Brooks and Kevin Smith, like it's impossible not to acknowledge that they have an audience that shows up to these things. And like it's hard not to like I imagine like as a creator, it's hard not to be like, well, people like this. Like this is what my audience likes. If I can find fresh ways to keep doing this, why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? Like there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with repeating yourself in a different way. I guess is what I mean.
Don't just disregard the people that helped got you to where you are.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
like
because I agree. Because like say Kevin Smith, we, basically we make the comment of he clearly makes the movies that he wants to make. But that's the same vein that could be said for Tarantino, for Mel Brooks. Like there's directors for hire, and then there's the directors who make what they want on their time and on their pace and whatnot. And but yeah, they definitely
and they do it for their audience.
Exactly.
Right?
He's also telling he's telling a very different story in this too, while integrating those old jokes. Like he's doing a brand new story, winning over the audience that way. And then when you throw in these little jabs of, Blazing Saddles or History of the World or whatever, like that's what makes it stand out. Whereas like to throw to like Kevin Smith, like Jay and Silent Bob reboot, kind of just relied on those. And I'll like Dumb and Dumber, whatever the frick the new one was called, the one where Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels come back. The only jokes that work in that movie are the ones that they took from the first one, because the movie was god awful. Whereas like Robin Hood Men in Tights is the best jokes of this movie are not the ones he repeats. Those are kind of just like cherries on top of Oh, I like how he integrated those older jokes into this movie too.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Mel Brooks isn't just relying on what he's already done in the past. He's, like you said, he's just using those to accentuate the already good jokes that he's already put into place.
Also, since we talk about parody every episode so far, I want to talk about it here, but like not the Robin Hood parody that we get in this. We get the Godfather parody in this. And this is how you do multiple parodies in a single movie, because it doesn't detract from the overall story. He puts this Don Giovanni or something like that, like character in this movie, Dom DeLuise, and he's so good at doing a Brando too, that it adds to the movie too, and like feels like, oh, this is an actual character that lives in this world. It's not us taking Brando's Godfather and putting him into the Robin Hood world. We're parroting that, but inside the world I already created. And that's where like something like Epic movie, the later Scary movies, Date movie, where they just throw references at the wall, hoping one of them sticks, and they have nothing to do with the overall story or the original parody of what you were trying to kind of mimic.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's a great creator, what a great creator does. And that's, I think, what makes Mel Brooks stand out from all the other people that made those terrible parodies.
And that's just it. I mean, like you get into like the very first Scary movie for the sake of parodies. You get into the first Scary movies when the Wayans brothers are still involved and whatnot. Those are like basically like the last good like straight up parodying the right way. Like nothing's really been done since then, because once the Wayans brothers left the Scary Movie franchise, that's when they really went to let's just throw everything in the kitchen sink at it and see what's gonna stick. But other than that, like there hasn't been a good parody movie basically since like Brooks in like the 90s and what, like like Hot Shots, and Austin Powers.
That's true. Austin Powers at least.
Would be so. Wayne's. I'd say the Wayans brothers and Mike Myers would be the last ones that really have given us some decent, like on the nose parodying, that we haven't seen in almost 20 years now. Like we need to find somebody needs to go out there and make a new parody for the right parodying sake. Like give us the loaded weapon, give us, like, I don't know, call it like a Legally Blonde, but in a parody version, kind of thing. Give us something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Well, like, and especially with something like Scary Movie, the answer's right there in front of you. If you want to parody a bunch of different movies, go for an anthology. Have segments. Have a segment where you take on The Grudge, and then a later segment where you take on War of the Worlds. Like, that's the thing. Parody shouldn't be as dead right now as it is.
I'm pulling up a list because I'm very curious what the last great parody movie, and some of these I don't consider, like they have Deadpool 2,
No, that's not
Sausage
parody.
Party, Lego Batman. Those aren't parody. I'll search through these.
Lego Batman, maybe you could, but not in the same way.
No, and I wouldn't even call Sausage Party a parody. That's just more of an adult cartoon.
What is Sausage Party a parody of?
Yeah.
Like,
it's just an adult. It's just an adult cartoon.
Yeah. Like, Sausage Party is 100% its own. Yeah.
Like, they have Borat and Bruno in here. Neither of those are parodies. No, okay, here I think this might be the last,
but that's not parody.
This might be the last one right here. Black Dynamite from 2009.
I haven't seen that.
I could get.
Oh, it's really Black Dynamite's really good.
Yes.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out.
It's one of those ones where I kind of wish Michael Jai White would do more stuff like that because he's fantastic in that movie.
Is he's in that?
He's Black Dynamite.
Oh, okay.
Black Dynamite.
I'm gonna put this on the watch list. That's fun.
I thought you were about to say you were about to put it on the white list. I'm like, don't be saying Black Dynamite and white list. That just sounds wrong.
I think Shaun of the I would count Shaun of the Dead as a parody.
When was
Shaun of the Dead is a legit parody.
But that's 2004.
Yeah. So there you go. So 2009, Black Dynamite. So we're going on 15 years, almost 15 years.
And that one's only, it's a relative cult classic more than anything. And that came out during the disaster movie, superhero movie, Meet the Spartans, Extreme movie, but all these other vampires suck. Sorry, Sam. I bet you like that one, don't you?
But that's just
it. I hate that one, actually.
Black Dynamite does it right, though, in terms of it knows exactly what it is. It's basically poking fun at the blaxploitation movies of the 70s while still having fun with it and, utilizing their cast properly.
Yeah.
Which we really at this point right now, outside of like good comedic actors that know how to be able to shoulder a film, we haven't had a good parodying director, writer, since Mel Brooks, basically.
Yeah. Well, Mike
Marlon
Myers.
Marlon Wayans has been still trying to make parodies for years now, even after Scream. He had The Haunted House and 50 Shades of Black.
Bad.
Yeah, they're not good. Not the later ones are not good. I'm not saying that, but he's still. I give him props for still trying.
Yes,
because if someone else is going to do it, it's going to be him, or at least someone he's working alongside. Like I think he really stands out. The one I really would want to see, because I'm just seeing it on here, is Popstar Never Stop Never Stopping, which I don't think is. It's not a direct parody because it's not parodying as.
I would
parody of Justin Bieber.
No, I would put Popstar in the same vein of like when like you brought up like Bruno and Borat and whatnot. Those are more. I would call it a satire more than a parody. It's poking fun, but it's not like directly like putting something directly on the nose.
Yeah, but it also does, like, it follows a lot of the same beats as like the Justin Bieber movie, which I did watch that. I had a little
like it's a parody of those type of movies where it's the parody of the Justin Bieber whatever, like I think that was called like Never Stop or something like that. It was something very similar to that title.
Never Say Never. That's
Never Say Never. Yeah,
because he did that song with Jaden Smith for it. Yeah. That song.
And like Katy Perry had one at that time, and like a bunch of like pop stars had movies like what they're doing in Popstar at that time. So I think it's
actually
close.
Popstar. Popstar is pretty close to. I'd say that's a parody actually. But it's an interesting line because, like, yeah,
I bring
parodies
it
to
up
me
because
have
I
to be
think
ripped from something specific, and that one, like, it's specific enough for me to call it a parody. But like when you're just taking random grab bags from multiple movies, I don't find that, like, because
yeah,
even a
Right.
date movie, they have like certain, like, they don't even
multiple
stick to the
movies.
date, like, rom-com genre in that. There's like superheroes thrown in, and that's with all of them, like epic movie, and like all of those have all these different things, and it's just kind
Yeah,
of,
that's where like at least like Not Another Teen Movie was good in the respect that it stayed in its lane.
It stayed within a
yes,
genre. Like
Right.
it was a parody of multiple movies within that genre, but
Yeah.
also
Right.
that movie holds up really
it
well.
does. It's so funny. It's
Chris
so
Evans is
funny.
ridiculously good in that. Like one of his best
Thing.
performances of his career in that movie.
Well, and I still stand true to the fact that when they brought up the fact that they were going to parody Billy Bob from Varsity Blues, that the guy that played Billy Bob is like, if anybody's going to parody me, it's going to be me. So he gets to be his own parodied self, which I think is beautiful in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Not Another Teen Movie is a great parody. That, like, and it centers totally on Chris Evans's performance.
Yeah.
Like, he proved all the way back then that he could carry a movie just like that.
Well,
Because
I
he's
think
he's far and away the best part of that movie.
Well, and Not Another Teen Movie, I feel like to Casey's point is they stayed within a specific genre. They stayed within the
Hmm.
teen rom-com. Like they had a point of view, but they, even though it is a parody and it's clearly meant for the jokes, they took themselves seriously.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
gave us good, well casted people, like you said. Chris
And
Evans
they
is
played it straight, too.
well, and that's what I mean. They
Yeah.
they took themselves seriously because like I'll even throw in the fact that like I'm big into my movie soundtracks and whatnot. Not Another Teen Movie has one of the best cover albums for soundtracks that have come out in
Hmm.
the last 20 plus years.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that one also goes even like to the 80s, like
Yeah.
teen movies of so much so. One, it parodies Breakfast Club while bringing back the principal from Breakfast Club.
Yes.
Two, I love Sam Levine in that movie. Plays the Asian stereotype where he's a white person pretending to be Asian. And
Yep.
the Asian kids in the school are like, F that kid.
Yeah.
That movie
Yep.
rules. That movie's incredible.
So
Yeah,
Men in Tights.
shit. Men in Tights. Anyway, we're I guess I don't know.
I mean, this
Final
is
thoughts
all
on it. Three.
tangentially related to Men in Tights, so.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. Before we
There's
get to
so many of those movies we talked about are movies that probably would not have been even as good as they were if it weren't for Mel Brooks and movies like Men in Tights.
Yeah, absolutely.
before we get to final thoughts on Men in Tights, since we're talking about current parody, what genre or what movie would you like to see be parodied nowadays?
And done well. Actually, even though Mel Brooks, hasn't done movies in quite some time and whatnot. If he were to revisit a genre, revisit whatnot, is that clearly he likes his Universal monsters. We get Dracula, we got Frankenstein and whatnot. But I would love to see a good, done well parody of slasher movie. To be honest, because for the sake of how many good, great villains over the course of the last 40 years have we received in terms of Jason and Michael Myers. I got Austin Powers on the brain,
I'm gonna kill you, yeah, baby.
But see, and that's just it. I think that would be a joke that would play off if you were to make a slasher flick and all of a sudden the shape shows up and he comes out of the shadow and all of a sudden it's freaking Mike Myers dressed up as Austin Powers. Like
Yeah.
that would be the joke. Is we keep talking about Mike Myers and all of a sudden Austin Powers shows up, kind of that sort of thing. I don't know. I would love to see a good, well done slasher that it's not like just scary movie is playing on the tropes, but it wasn't like Like, give us an R-rated. People are gonna die, but it's still meant to be a parody kind of movie.
You know what's a great parody? I was just thinking like of what I would want to see a good parody of, and I was like, you
Undercover
know
Brother?
what? No, but that is a great parody. True crime is so big now that I feel like it's right for parody, and then I'm like, nope, someone already beat me to it. American Vandal on Netflix.
Yep.
That is the pitch perfect parody of Making a Murderer. I adore that show. It's insane how funny it is. And like I think like I don't know if Mel Brooks has a Netflix subscription, but I imagine that if he does, he fucking loves American Vandal. Like I love it. It's such a good show. So yeah, I guess that's my answer, and it's not a good one because it's already been done. But yeah, just more funny true crime, because that's such a dark thing that I feel like American Vandal is very cathartic, because it's parodying something that usually makes you feel horrible, and you have a smile on your face the whole time with like something like American Vandal.
Sam, shameless plug for an interview me and Brian did called "Faking a Murderer."
I need to see that.
You need to watch that.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah, you guys have told me about this. I need to actually. Yeah, that's a movie, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna actually watch that soon, because you guys keep telling me about it, and I keep like forgetting about it. I'm gonna add it on my letterbox right now.
Mine would be like if we did like supernatural horror. Like my favorite scene of Scary Movie 2 is the opening Exorcist stuff. Like I would love to see more of that in like a feature length, like a parody of The Conjuring, but done well, like done really good, is doing like a paranormal parody. I know Haunted House tried to do it, and I think the later Scary Movies I think did too.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get a good version of that.
You mean you don't want Paranormal Whacktivity?
No,
I'm pretty sure that's an actual movie. I think
it
that's
is.
an actual movie.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I think there's another 30 Nights of Paranormal Activity with the devil inside the girl with the dragon tattoo. What are you trying to pick? How many different movies are you trying to parody of that? Come on.
Like that.
Come on.
Especially like that one. It's that kind of thing started with like the 40-year-old virgin, the blah 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 blah. And I'm like, why? Like
the 41-year-old virgin who knocked up Sarah Marshall and felt super bad about it.
Right.
That's the one. And the minute I saw, like, I'm like, the title doesn't even make me laugh, and it's trying very hard to. And I couldn't do it. I don't watch anything that just puts a bunch of movie titles into the title. Like, that's not funny. That's just dumb.
The Hangover games, the one that was like the Hunger Games meets the Hangover.
There's two of those. There's two of those. There's the Starving Games and the Hungover Games.
Yeah.
Yes.
Man,
why?
We need another Mel Brooks. We need another Mel Brooks. Like, the state of parody is awful.
Mm-hmm.
Awful.
We just need to tell Weird Al Yankovic he needs to start directing movies.
Yeah. I'm so excited for his biopic on Roku. Like, it makes me so happy that I have a Roku device, because I'm not gonna lie, Daniel Radcliffe as as Weird Al.
I want to see Daniel Craig's Weird Al now.
Yeah, now I do too. No, but Daniel Radcliffe's gonna nail that. And like, if I hadn't already had a Roku, I would have gone out and fucking bought one, because I was like, no, there's no way I'm gonna miss that movie. That sounds incredible. Sorry, I keep swearing.
I did see a interview with him and whatnot. He's like, the hair was fake, the mustache was real though.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That's so awesome. Oh, God. Have you guys seen Swiss Army Man? Sorry, one more side tangent.
No, I still need to.
I haven't yet.
So I found out through the director commentary that Paul Dano's beard is fake. Paul Dano can't grow facial hair. So I'm like, hey, one more thing Paul Dano and I have in common.
It's a punchable face?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm a strange person who likes to act weird. There are plenty of people who want to punch me in the face. And we both can't grow a beard. And we're also probably both big fans of Daniel Radcliffe and having worked with him and whatnot, So I feel like Paul and I would be besties.
Sam and Paul waiting for that meetup to happen. Let's wrap this up, boys. I guess let's do score and our double feature. If you're gonna watch Men in Tights again, what are we gonna pair it with? Whoever wants to go first can go first because I have no idea what I'm gonna pair with this.
Okay. I'm gonna go with, so I give this like 3.5 out of 5. I think it's not the best Brooks movie, but I have a lot of nostalgia attached to it, and I don't know. I really like this one. I watch it a lot, and I don't know. I dig it. So, yeah, 3.5. It's not his best, but it's still a really, really good time. That said, what I would pair it with, I don't know. I'm not gonna go Princess Bride because like that's just the obvious choice.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pair this one with. I'm gonna go with the first Pirates of the Caribbean because I feel like the first Pirates of the Caribbean would not. I'm not kidding when I say I don't think Jack Sparrow would exist without these like Men in Tights and Princess Bride. Like I genuinely think that Cary Elwes is a precursor to that type of character. Johnny Depp might have like way popularized it because, like you said, Casey, like every person's like the snarky, like
the snarky,
self-assured person,
bumbling hero.
Yep.
Yeah. So now it's just a thing, but I mean, you could even argue that Kurt Russell kind of originated that in the 80s, actually, with like Big Trouble in Little China. Getting off topic again, this is final thoughts. Yeah, so I just like this movie, and I would pair it with Pirates of the Caribbean. Curse of the Black Pearl, I think is what the first one's called. I haven't watched those in a long time, but I do love the first 3.
It's been a hot minute since I've watched any of those.
Yeah, the 4th and 5th ones are bad, but the first 3 are so good.
I will lean into the fact that I would go with the Princess Bride just because of the swashbuckler. The Princess Bride is more of an original more than it is a parody, but it definitely holds to some of those tropes that it was leaning on.
It's a very self-aware movie.
Right, very much so.
Yeah.
It's a very self-aware, but I don't think it falls in the same border of a parody of like what Men in Tights is. But at the same time, too, the only thing that I would want to make different about, and I thought about this while watching Men in Tights, and I think about this every time she is on screen. When we think of the witch for latrine, is I wish this was Carol Kane from Princess Bride in that role, because I think Carol Kane would have crushed as latrine.
Absolutely, yeah.
That, but just overall, you got your through line with Cary Elwes, so I would go with Princess Bride, and both of them, all of them. I mean, for me, they're 5-star movies, but I grew up on these movies to the point where, like, again, they're ingrained in my movies. It's one of those ones where it's like to the point where, like, anytime I see Cary Elwes shows up, I'm like, I need to watch this. Like you said, Stranger Things. You had me at, well, I already had you at Stranger Things, but you gave me another reason to want to watch it. That sort of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I gave this a 3 out of 5, I think is where I'm sitting at with it. Like, this feels like, I don't know, I like the movie, don't love it. It's just right in that good middle area of, I enjoyed it a lot more than I obviously didn't enjoy it. Cary Elwes is so good in this movie. Princess Bride is always on the edge of my mind. It's also got
one of the best ending jokes in history.
Yep.
I just remembered it. Call the locksmith.
The movie I'm going to pair it with is a movie, again, that's kind of leaning into parody, a little maybe more so Princess Bride than Robin Hood Men in Tights. I'm going to watch Robin Hood Men in Tights with another guy in tights, but he's green in tights. It's Shrek. Where he goes on this
that is a good double feature. That
big
is a
epic
really good
adventure for Shrek.
Yeah.
I like to think that he lives in the same universe as a Robin Hood. There's probably a Robin Hood in the Shrek universe.
Robbed by him, remember? In the first one. They get robbed by Robin Hood Yeah,
Dickhead.
they're legit. Like they actually have Robin Hood in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great choice, man.
I'm just gonna assume that was Cary Elwes.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right?
Mike Myers was on the mind, and I'm like, Austin Powers doesn't fit with this. How about Shrek?
No, I
Shrek,
think Austin
donkey.
Powers fits. But no, Shrek's great because it's totally a send up of fairy tales. I would consider Shrek a parody. I actually would.
I would.
Yeah.
I would.
All right.
So okay,
well,
the Shrek series is the last good parody because even the fourth one isn't bad. The third one's the worst. The fourth one's actually pretty funny.
I don't remember the third and fourth one. They mixed together with me.
Yeah. The fourth one
Is the
has
third-
fat
is
Puss
the-
in Boots.
Okay. The third one where Justin Timberlake shows up?
Justin
Yes.
Timberlake's the prince. That's the weakest one.
Yeah.
It's still fun though. Like I love all the stuff set at the high school. I think that's the funniest part of the movie. But yeah. I'm sorry, I keep getting us off topic, but we're talking about
same.
movies I really like.
We're talking about Shrek 4. We're talking about Robin Hood Men in Tights. We're talking about Vampires Suck. Some of Sam's favorite movies of all time.
That's where I draw the line. I love vampire movies, not that one.
Well, speaking of vampire movies, next week, Dracula Dead and Loving It, final episode of our Mel Brooks series. Sam, that's if we love it, thank you. If we hate it, we're gonna blame you.
That's fine. I'm fully expecting, like, I don't know what I'm expecting. You guys might love it, you might hate it. I have no clue. Yeah.
Well, that's next week, so stay tuned for Dracula Dead and Loving It. If you want to hear that episode next week or any of our previous episodes, including Blazing Saddles and History of the World Part 1, you can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and YouTube. You can find YouTube where you can see if Brian and Sam are wearing tights at the beginning of this episode. Spoilers, no one is wearing tights.
No. I'm Pooh Bearing it, though. And I got up. I stood up during this episode while I was Pooh Bearing it, so I don't know if the camera caught anything. You guys let me know in the comments.
All right, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd HQ. Holy cow, that sneeze is gonna kill me.
Brian's dying.
Oh my god, that hurt. I didn't get a chance to mute my mic. I'm like, keep it in.
You sneezed inward.
Oh, it hurt. It hurt. Oh.
You just did a Mel Brooks parody joke on the show by sneezing inward.
Yeah.
That was it. That's
Man,
why
I don't care if it blows out my mic. I sneeze. If I can't hit the mute button in time, I'm sorry, guys.
Be sure to check us out at the South Dakota Film Community Group. Join the conversation. Film lovers, enthusiasts, filmmakers. We just like talking about movies. Where else can we go?
And if you like this and you want to hear more, Brian's having a really hard time. You can join us on patreon.com/backlot605, where this month we're going to have like a big, massive, cool episode for you guys. It's really special. I'm not going to announce it. We'll announce it when we record it and put it out. It's going to be fun though. I'm really excited. And
it's an entire commentary on Vampires Suck. Spoilers.
Oh God.
We're all sitting through it together. We're watching Vampires Suck and the 41-year-old virgin who was super bad about knocking up Sarah Marshall or whatever the hell that one's called.
No.
Okay.
Maybe we can do a bad movie commentary, just not those ones.
Fine. Meet the Spartans.
I'd rather do that one than any of those. But yeah, anyways,
the Spartans.
That's what we've got going on Patreon. Thanks for checking us out there and supporting us in that way. We love that. So, but yeah, that's what I got.
One more thing that we have to plug here. Coming up on, what is the date again? May 14th, Marvel Cinematic Universe Countdown. Tag Team Turmoil. Us, the best team, versus other teams that suck. They all suck. No.
Yeah.
The other team's comic book look. Wednesday Comics and Team Best Friends going down.
The other
again,
teams
Saturday.
that, according to the group chat, I might be on. I don't know.
Sam's
I
on
don't
every
know
team.
whose
He's
team I'm on.
he's the mole. He's the mole of this.
Morley,
I like to play all sides, so I just always come out on top.
Yep. He's our Mac.
Or Ronald McDonald.
Ronald McDonald. So again, May 14th at Average Joe's Gaming, Marvel Cinematic Universe countdown, ranking the 20 best Marvel movies of all time. Hopefully Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance makes this list.
Except for that hole, it doesn't qualify.
It's not going to make the list, but it's number one in our hearts.
In your heart.
We love you, Spirit of Vengeance.
It's like maybe top 30 in my heart. I do need to rewatch it, though. I haven't seen it in a very long time.
I hope that's the one movie Sam rewatches for this show.
It will be.
It's a movie that's not going to be on the list. Not even eligible. Spirit of Vengeance. But we love it. We love all of our guests on that show. We're excited to do it. Again, May 14th, our MCU countdown. It's going down.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap this thing up. Next week, Dracula Dead and Loving It. Hopefully we love it. But thank you all for listening. Thank you all for checking us out. For Brian Mensing, Sam Lenz, I'm Casey Kelderman, and we are the Men in Tights, and we'll see you next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.
Bye.